What if everything you think you know about the female soul is wrong? What if the deepest secrets of a woman's psyche are not in her words, but in her silences? Carl Jung, the man who delved into the darkness of the human mind, discovered something that few dared to even consider. The female soul is a mirror, but also a shadow. At the heart of analytical psychology, Jung stumbled upon an enigma as old as time: the feminine principle, the Anima archetype. He believed that within every woman lies a primitive, untamed archetypal force connected to nature, mystery, and transformation. But this force, if not understood, becomes a shadow. And when the shadow takes hold, it dominates not only the woman, but also the man who relates to her. Today, we'll reveal what Jung saw in the female soul and why understanding it can change your life before it's too late. For Jung, the anima is the unconscious representation of the feminine within man, just as the animus is the unconscious representation of the masculine within woman. But he was not content with a conceptual explanation. He realized that the anima is a living, pulsating presence, which carries within itself all the emotional, instinctive, and symbolic heritage of the ancestral feminine. She is not an intellectual invention, but a real psychic entity who speaks in dreams, acts on impulses, and reveals herself in the deepest affections. This is where the feminine soul ceases to be an abstract idea and becomes a sensitive terrain, where archetypal forces intertwine like ancient roots in a silent forest. This is not poetry, it is psychic technique of observing how the unconscious organizes itself, how it responds, how it expresses itself through the feminine. Jung identified that this soul has its own language, which is not verbal. It pulsates in the body, vibrates in intuition, echoes in the silence between words. According to him, the feminine is cyclical like the moon, instinctive like rivers, mysterious like dreams, and deeply connected to nature. He saw in the woman's soul a living bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. And this bridge is not something fixed. It is organic, flexible, subject to ruptures when the psyche is subjected to external pressures, symbolic violence, internal censorship, or cultural distortions. It is like a bridge of ropes over a deep abyss. When culture teaches women to deny what they feel, to fear their vulnerability, or to repress their desire to create and transform, this bridge gives way. And when it gives in, the disconnection begins. Disconnecting from one's soul is not just losing touch with one's feelings. It is silencing one's inner compass, cutting the invisible thread that connects the self to the whole. At that moment, the shadow is born. And this shadow is not bad. It is what has been forgotten, rejected, ignored. This is the silent pain that many women carry, not knowing exactly what is missing, but feeling that something essential has been lost along the way. Jung saw in this a profound calling to return to the soul, to the inner territory where emotional truth resides. When a woman is led even subtly to ignore her intuition, that silent inner compass, to silence her creativity, which springs forth like a living spring from within the soul, or to doubt her inner power, which does not scream but sustains, she begins to distance herself from her own essence. And it is in this distancing that the shadow forms, not as a punishment but as a reflection of what has been silenced. This shadow is not an imaginary ghost. It takes concrete form in everyday life. It reveals itself in the insecurity that paralyzes, in the emotional dependence that empties, in the passive aggression that wounds in silence, in the perfectionism that is never satisfied, and even in the rejection of the masculine, not because he is the enemy, but because he has become the symbol of a misunderstood wound. Jung observed that the feminine soul develops in 4 stages, as if they were stations on an inner journey. Eve, the instinctive woman, mother, caregiver, the one who nourishes with her body and protects with her heart. Helena, the seductive aesthetic woman who understands the power of charm, but who, if isolated, can get lost in vanity and superficiality. Mary, the compassionate, spiritual, devout woman who loves deeply, but who, if denied, represses her flesh. Sophia, the integrated woman, the one who doesn't have to choose between being strong or sensitive, beautiful or wise. She is all of these in harmony. Each archetype brings a gift, but also a challenge. When a woman is forced to live only one role, be it that of the sacrificial mother, the seductive lover, or the immaculate saint, she is fragmented, and psychic fragmentation is the fertile soil of the shadow. Because the soul desires wholeness, not labels. This is why many female internal crises are not weaknesses, but symptoms of a psyche that cries out for wholeness. Psychiatrist and Jungian analyst Clarissa Pinkola Estes, author of the classic Women Who Run with the Wolves, echoes Jung when she states that every woman carries within her a wild instinct that has been numbed by culture. This instinct is not destructive, it is creative, protective, wise. Clarissa says, "The wild woman is the one who listens to her inner voice, who feels the call of the forest, and who is not afraid of her own depth. This woman does not live in fairy tales. She is among us. Perhaps she is your mother, your sister, your partner, or even you. She is not perfect, nor does she need to be. She is often hurt, but she remains whole, because she feels what many ignore and intuits what has not yet been revealed. She recognizes her own limits, but she does not submit to them. When she is silent, it is not out of submission, it is out of wisdom. And when she speaks, her words have the strength of wet earth after rain." James Hillman, a psychologist and profound student of the soul, emphasizes that the feminine, when repressed, does not go out. It turns into an underground fire, an emotional volcano ready to emerge. He warns, "Ignoring the deep aspects of the feminine soul is like playing with a storm that is about to break out. And this storm is not destruction, it is transformation. The fire that burns within can hurt, but it can also forge a new woman. Because this hidden feminine, when finally heard, does not cry out for revenge, it cries out for truth. And the truth, even when it hurts, always sets you free. When a woman allows herself to reconnect with all her parts, even those that were once hidden, hurt, or judged, something extraordinary happens. She doesn't turn into someone else. She just goes back to being who she always was, before she forgot. And that memory has the power to change not only your life, but the entire fabric around it. Feminine liberation is not an act of rebellion. It is a silent, patient process, like water carving through stone. It's the courage to listen, even when everyone around you says otherwise. It is recovering the right to feel, to create, to say no, and also to say yes with your whole heart. Technically speaking, in analytical psychology, this movement of returning to one's essence is called individuation, the path of reconnection with the self. In the case of women, this process requires going through the shadow of the wounded anima and integrating the stages of the archetypes that Jung described. It is not about choosing between being Eve, Helen, Mary, or Sophia. It is about recognizing that they all live within themselves and that they all have a place. This integration does not happen in a snap. It reveals itself in small daily decisions. When a woman decides not to keep quiet, when she chooses to take care of herself before taking care of others, when she allows herself to make mistakes without crucifying herself, when she begins to look at her own wounds with compassion, not judgment. The whole woman is not the one who does not feel fear. It is the one who looks at fear and still walks. She is not the one who has never been hurt. It is the one that welcomes pain and transforms it into wisdom. She's not the one who's always strong. She's the one who knows when to stop, rest, ask for help, and then get back up. Clinical psychology observes that women who go through this process of reconnecting with the self show significant improvements in anxiety, depression, and feelings of existential emptiness, in addition to developing a more solid self-esteem, not based on appearance, performance, or external approval, but on something more solid, the feeling of belonging to themselves. And there is one point that cannot be ignored. When a woman becomes whole, the world feels it. Your children are raised with more empathy. Your relationships become more authentic. Your work carries more purpose. A woman who knows herself, who knows where she hurts and where she pulsates, transforms any space she occupies. Because she no longer seeks approval, she offers herself to the world with presence. And this presence has the power to heal not only herself, but the generations that came before and those yet to come. And maybe you are wondering, but what if I'm not that woman yet? What if I'm still trapped in the shadow, in doubt, in fear? The answer is, you have already started. Just the fact that you are here, listening to this, is a sign that something inside you wants to awaken. And that something is not small. It is ancestral. It's wild. It is sacred. The return to the feminine is not an external path. It is an internal dive. This is why Jung did not see the female psyche as a territory of fragility, but of power, a silent, transformative power that begins within the soul and spreads like a fertile field where everything can be reborn. And no, this process does not require perfection. It requires presence. It doesn't require you to be everything at once. It just requires you to no longer deny any part of yourself. Neither the one who cries, nor the one who laughs. Neither the one that hid, nor the one that dreams of appearing. Neither the one who loves too much, nor the one who has learned to protect herself. Each woman carries her own return map within herself, and when she sits quietly to listen, the soul begins to whisper. You've been whole before, and it can be again. If this content touched something inside you, don't ignore it. Share it with other women. Comment below. Which parts of you do you feel are still asleep? Let's continue this conversation together in the comments. And if you want to dive even deeper into this universe, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications, because in the next videos, we'll talk about the animus, a woman's inner masculine, and how it influences her love choices, her strength, and her blocks. The feminine soul is not a mystery to be deciphered. It is a universe to be respected, and it starts inside you. And if there is something that femininity teaches us, it is that everything has its time. The awakening of the soul does not happen with ready-made formulas. It happens little by little, like the blossoming of a flower that is not in a hurry, but also cannot resist the light. Sometimes it all starts with a silent discomfort, a feeling that something doesn't fit, that life is being lived halfway. It's not uncommon for this call to come in moments of crisis, a separation, a loss, an illness, unexpected loneliness. In these moments, the wounded feminine begins to whisper, and if the woman listens, the journey begins. In the clinical office, it is possible to observe this process of rebirth. It is not linear. There are relapses, doubts, resistance, but there are also profound discoveries. Women who start dreaming again, literally, who start creating again, dancing, writing, and getting excited about their own existence. Women who, upon recognizing the shadow, stop running away from it, and finally learn to dance with it. Integrating the psyche does not mean eliminating conflict. It means embracing it, understanding it, and allowing it to reveal what it came to teach. Because every pain has a name, every fear has a source. And when a woman learns to name what she feels, she not only heals herself, she teaches others to do the same. In the end, perhaps this is what femininity demands, that we be whole, not flawless. And being whole is recognizing that strength also resides in vulnerability, that wisdom is not the absence of pain, but presence in the midst of pain, that being a woman in her entirety is a profound act of courage, but also of love. Carl Jung knew that transforming the female psyche was no easy task, but he also knew that when a woman rediscovers her soul, she changes everything she touches. And now, your story is still being written. But perhaps today, you have found the thread again. Hold it tightly and move on, because the world needs the woman you are becoming.